Hello and welcome back to Nondual therapy. I've been away for a while. I've taken 3 months off, I guess. I don't know. Last time I checked it was 3 months, so probably a little bit more than that. But I've been away. I really had this feeling of like responsibility to the channel and like, I didn't want to just come on here and not give you truth, because looking back on some of my videos I can find flaws or faults in them that I wouldn't exactly express the same thing that I did, or I would express myself in the same manner. Now, on the other hand to that, this is also my journey, my path, and I'm not going to have everything right off the bat, out of the gate. I'm not here to portray any harmful ways of doing medicine. At least that's not my intention. This is my own self-exploration. A lot of these things haven't been studied intensively, so I'm out here doing my own thing, just researching, so anybody that's new to 5-MeO and they see my videos and I'm doing 3 sessions at 15 milligrams per round, or 3 rounds rather, it's probably a lot, and I don't want anyone to feel like they have to do that, that's like the necessary path for them. It's just, this is what I've been doing, and this is my path, and this is my own trajectory that I've kind of like formed and created and following whatever way you look at it. So now I'm back. I've worked through that, and this is my path, and I'm expressing my path. I'm sharing my path. So yeah, let's get into Shambhala weekend. So for those of you that do not know, Shambhala is a music festival. It's in British Columbia. It's about middle of the province. I live close to Vancouver, and it's about an 8-hour drive from where I live. Now, traveling there, including stop for gas and dinner, it was about a 9-hour journey to get there. Once you get there, then there's a 12-hour lineup to get in. So there's a lot of travel just to get there. Now, one thing that I didn't share with one of my 5-MeO malt experiences, because I didn't know what to think of it. I didn't know what to make of it. But I had a 5-MeO malt experience where I was thinking about Shambhala. I wanted to go to this music festival, and the group that I was trying to form to go with me, they all fell away one by one. So I was just left by myself, and I still felt it was right. I wanted to go at least by myself and just have a good time. And even though at these things, since I've been on the path, these things aren't really about having a good time. It's more about you get the lessons that you get, and then if there's a good time that is had that comes along with it, then sweet, I'll take it. But anyway, back to this 5-MeO malt experience. I was trying to decide of did I even want to go, or was I going to go, and then who was I going to go with, if I was going to go with anybody, or if I actually did want to go by myself. And I kind of dropped it all. This is at a peak of a malt experience. I dropped it all, and I was left with, I do want to go, or I am going, and I actually wanted to go with my wife. Letting it all go, getting to that God realization where I am God and I create my reality and everything is what I want it to be. And then I realized that I wanted to go with my wife, and it was so powerful. It was emotional, and just the words just don't do it justice. But then after my session dies down and I go back upstairs, and when I address it with my wife, I was so confident my wife's going to be oh yeah, I'll go with you. But then she was just, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go anymore. So I was I didn't know what to make of it. So I didn't share that on the malt video, because that kind of happened pretty close. I'm pretty sure it happened before I made the video, because that feels right. But anyway, as I was getting closer to the experience, my wife started changing her mind, and then eventually she did decide to come with me. So all in all, it worked out the way it happened in the malt experience. So my journey for Shambhala, it's basically a hippie festival. There's a lot of lights and lasers and dubstep and drum and bass music, and everyone's dressed up as hippies. And so we were there for 3 nights, and over the 3 nights, honestly, looking back on it, it was 3 nights, but they were separate. But looking back on it, it was an entire experience that everything was attached to each other. So it was one giant experience broken up into 3 segments. So my first night, I did MDMA. 120 milligrams to start, with a 100 milligram booster about 4 hours into it. That's what I like to do. But when it came on, it was very, very slow and very gentle. And as it was coming on, I was slowly, so slow, breaking down who I thought I was, and then God was creeping in, as like taking over in a sense. And this was happening so slowly. I can't emphasize that enough. But over the first night, it was a lot of that. It was just, a lot of dancing, listening to music. But there's always this creeping in that would happen, and it was so subtle. I say one thing that's happened with when I go to these shows or I go to music festivals is that I like to dance, and I feel really compelled to dance in symmetry, which it doesn't really work, but I'm just standing there doing this, like working through my mind and trying to break down whatever. But the first night, I was just free to dance whatever way I wanted. Like I wasn't so focused. I wasn't so locked in my mind. But yet there was still work being done, but I was just free to have fun. Or I guess I didn't allow myself that before. I was just so like focused on, you gotta be in symmetry, you gotta do this. This is the only way it works. So the first night was like, it was nice, it was a good time. The second day, like the day after that, I was feeling okay. I was pretty tired because we didn't get any sleep the first night, and we kind of got some sleep the second night, although it wasn't like a full night's sleep, but I was feeling a bit better. So the second day I did LSD. So I did 110 micrograms of LSD, and that took a while to kick in. Like I haven't done it in so long that I've forgotten how long it took, but it was like 1.5 to 2 hours to like start feeling like, okay, something's happening here. But just like a progression of the first night, I was letting go of who I thought I was, but at the same time, those things that I was letting go, I was like diving deeper into them. And it was becoming more and more painful as the night went on. So as the night was going on, I was feeling more and more that I'm like such a loser, that I'm like just like self-deprecating, just like I'm worthless. It just, fuck it. It's just painful to go through. And this is how I see myself, or at least how I saw myself at the time. So as the night was going on, this was ramping up. So the first 4 hours was actually like pretty subtle and pretty calm, and we were just having a good time. So when we went back to our campsite to change, I did another 110 micrograms, and that's when it really kicked in. And it was like, oh man, I'm here to like work as always. I remember, a side note, I remember I was at this other music festival. This was early on in my path, and I was like ready to have a good time. It was a one night thing. I think it was the first time I ever did LSD. I didn't even make a video about this story because it's just so chaotic. But I remember the first time I popped on the train, getting through the lineup, and then right when I got in, it was perfect timing. Right when I got into the festival, it kicked in, and I could tell right away this is going to be a lesson. And the big one. And I was so upset, and I took my water bottle and I threw it on the ground out of frustration like a little kid. And then it was just chaos ensued. But anyway, back to this experience. At least it wasn't like that. Now, something that happened the morning of that experience of day 2, I was feeling like before the LSD, I was starting to feel like I'm just not good enough. And I always had this problem of not being, not assertive, but I just I kind of sit back and I don't really engage with people. Like I'm an introverted person, and it takes a lot for me to go out and to do something in a group. Like all those introverted memes that I've seen, that they're all true. It's like, it's so hard to put myself out there. So I have that tendency. And I'm trying to break through it, and I don't know if it's something to break through or just accept that that's who I am. Either way, accepting who I am is the ultimate goal. But I don't know if it's something I need to work through, if it's something that needs to change, or if it will change, I don't know. But I'm really feeling that. Like I'm just like, the people around me in my life, a lot of people are extroverted, and I admire them. And like we go for walks and people are talking to everybody, everybody you walk past, they strike up a conversation. I just couldn't imagine my life being like that. There's just no way. And if you're introverted, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I was having these feelings, and, it was like that. And then it was like, I'm worthless and I'm useless and I'm just like, piece of shit. But all of that on top. I knew that Adam from Psych Substance was going to be at Shambhala, and I was actually looking forward to talking to him. And sure enough, I saw him the second day. He was doing interviews, and I wanted to go over and thank him for paving the way for other YouTubers, because he's got the biggest psychedelic channel. I don't know if it's psych substance, or I think he's changed it to psych now, but anyway, I knew he was going to be there. And then, building up to that was one of the selling points. When I found out he was going, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go. And then, but right when I saw him, I was just like overwhelmed with like, it's fine. I saw him. Like, I'm just telling myself a story. I saw him. That's good enough for me. And I didn't go and say hi or anything. And, I'm left with like, on one hand, there are no mistakes. But on the other hand, it's something that I wanted to happen and it didn't happen. And I could have easily made it happen, but it was in my head and it just didn't happen. So I was a bit bummed about that. And that like compiled on to like what I was feeling. So during the LSD, this was like getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And another thing too that I was like, I'd kind of built up for myself is that I was thinking I was going to go by myself to this music festival. I was going to put myself out there, put myself in a position to have to engage with people because I was going to be alone and I wanted to interact with people. But then my wife ended up coming, which was great. But then I noticed like I rely on her for a lot of my socializing, and I don't, because it's very comfortable. I'm very comfortable with my wife. So it's really easy to just, have that as my outlet. So the second night was really, I have the feeling like I want to put myself out there more. It was on the second night that probably the best set I ever saw there, Cali Tuna, Fractal Forest. If you were there, it was awesome. It was like through that set that I was able to like have a good time, but then I was also like halfway through it, it was starting to get a little bit dark. And then after that set, it was just like, okay, we got to go to bed. So we went to bed. And when I laid down to go to sleep, man, it was like full on DMT visuals. Like I was like ready to like, just let me please sleep. Like at the tail end of every LSD story ever, please just let me sleep. Please. And, I'm just dealing with these crazy visuals. But they didn't last for too long, or at least I don't remember they did. And, I went to bed. But the next day was really, really rough. Like I was like working through all that stuff that came up the night before. And I'm really integrating it. And the next day was a pretty low energy day. We just like chilled until it was evening. And I was almost ready to go home because I was like, oh man, like I don't want to put up with this anymore. But the third night, I'm glad I stayed. The third night I ended up doing MDMA, and it was like a nice sandwich in there. It felt really good. Like, it was like nervous because of the night before that it was going to like compound onto that experience because it was very unpleasant. However, we went to this stage where it was like country music, and it was like a electronic music festival, but they were playing a lot of country music, and all the songs are about coming home, I'm home, let's go home. It's like every song was like this. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I get it, come on. And as the MDMA was kicking in, I'm like, all of my anxiety about having a bad trip or having like a challenging trip, it was like alleviating. It was like slowly going away. And as the night progressed, God was really, really coming in and taking over. So like I did the work the last 2 nights, and the third night was like allowing God into my field of awareness. And about 3 or 4 hours into the evening, I made it to this point where, our weekend, our trip, this is our last night, and our trip is dying down, and we're enjoying the last, like, we know it's like the last hour, 2 hours of our experience there. So we're just like, we're relaxed, we're having a good time, we're dancing. And by this point, my field of awareness is, I can see everything the way that it was happening. But how I saw it, like, Josh was not there. And when Josh isn't there, that means there aren't other people dancing. There isn't a stage with lights and lasers, and we're not in the forest, and there's loud music happening. I could feel like I'm like right there. I could feel like everything's flowing and I'm flowing with it. But there's like an I'm. There's like a me that's flowing. And the previous 2 nights, I didn't have any desire to move in Symmetry at all. And at this point, I was like, no, this is happening. So just like simple, very simple, just like 10, 15 seconds of like kind of dancing and moving in Symmetry. And then it was like poof. And Josh left the building. Now when Josh is gone and I'm looking out, it's like everything still looks the same. It's still the same colors and shapes that's happening. You know, there's still a dance floor with lights and lasers and loud music and people all talking around me and bumping into me as they walk by. It's like a sensory overload, essentially. But this is happening. But instead of like seeing all those things, because there's so much stuff to look at this place. Like there's people dressed up in costumes and everyone's doing drugs. Everywhere you look, someone's snorting something. And there's like everywhere you look is something to look at and something to take your attention. But at this time, it was like a field of everything, and everything was me, except I didn't need to state it and I didn't need to express it. It was just like a pure, unfiltered knowing. And I'm looking around and everything is just me. But it's not like, I'm that, and I'm that, and I'm that, and I'm that. It's just this knowing. And it's like so calm and so peaceful. Yeah, so I was like that for like about 20 seconds from my memory. I think it was like 20 seconds, and then somebody like walked by me and bumped me in the back. And it kind of like brought me out of it. So I looked behind me, and then I look back, and it's like Josh again, and there's like people, and you know, like everything is categorized. Because if I'm here, that means there's something over there. And then I just really like focus and I drop it. And then it became that field again, where everything is just like one field, and then it's coming from a place of knowing. And then again, somebody would bump me, and it would snap out of it, and then I would just go back, and then I could like focus, and there's like a dropping that like I could drop. I could just kind of like drop into it, and then it was like that. So I was like playing this game over the last hour of just in and out of it, in and out of it, in and out of it. You know, so I feel like the trip was like I got to a place, and all this suffering from the previous 2 days was worth it. Because like even going into it, I told my wife, it's like I've been to enough of these things that I know that I'm here for the lessons, and if there's any fun, I'll take that too. Like I said at the beginning, looking back on it now, it's just like doing 3 rounds of 5-MeO-DMT, like the intensity, even though the medicine was a lot less powerful, it was like the first round, which was the first night, this easing into it. And the second round, the second night of LSD was just this unpleasant, but it was still beautiful. I cried many tears. I'm just like, how everything's perfect. And, you know, so it's not all bad. There's like good and bad and good and bad, and it just comes in waves. Then the third night, for the third round, is where it just gets all tied together in a nice little package. So there's something powerful about this, like power of three. It's like Wim Hof, you do 3 rounds. It's like, I don't know, there's just so much threes in this field where it's all connected. Anyway, that was my weekend. I'm glad to be back in front of the camera. This feels nice. So anyway, I will see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.